If you love Paul Harvey stories and the rest of the story, subscribe now. It was high noon when the kid swaggered into the dingy saloon. All the barkeep knew him, as did the rest of the rough and raucous play. After all, it was the outlaw's outlaw, a sidewinder whose path one did best not cross. And Sam Garrett was about to cross it. Now the $600 Sam owed the kid was not so much a matter of money. It was the principle of the thing. After all, the kid never carried less than $2,000 in his pocket, just in case there was business to be done. And still the money was owed, and the kid was there to say it. The rest was settled so quietly by the pistol gleaming at his side. Was the kid a killer? Well, not habitually, despite the gaming house gunfight a dozen years previous, during which he'd shot dead bandit Hillary Brown. The sheriff had called that justifiable homicide. Maybe it was, but the townsfolk were not so sure today when the shouting match between the kid and the unarmed Sam Garrett spilled into the hot sun outside the saloon, and the kid drew his gun and, using it as a bludgeon, bashed Garrett to the ground. By the time the law showed up, Sam lay senseless in the street. The kid was still kicking him in the head. After 5 days unconscious, Sam Garrett was dead. This time the kid was certain to swing. It was murder after all. Or was it? Because you see, the eyewitnesses, well, they started changing their stories, and some just somehow disappeared. And even then, the jury returned a verdict of second-degree murder, enough for life in prison. Although the kid was out in 4 years, some suspicious finagling, they say, and he's out there to this day. For the Wild West-sounding yarn that's just been spun, although according to the original testimony of those who saw it happen, a completely true one. It was a tale from the wild, wild East. Happened high noon, April 20th, 1966, out in front of the Manhattan Tap Room, 100th and Cedar, on the east side of Cleveland, Ohio. And the kid, the neighborhood tough guy with the unregistered .357 Magnum stuck in his belt. He wasn't Israel. He also had a reputation, even then, as the biggest numbers racket banker in town. He grossed $15,000 a day on the poor people's lottery, some say. Now you'll hear him tell it differently. Who are we to judge an old wrestler's yarn? Just that. Well, you might not put the man you know in the scenes which you have just relived. For the man you know seems more of a frivolous showman, with his hair standing on end, than a ferocious gunslinger. At least he's not the sort of galoot who might kick a man to death. They don't call him Donald the Kid on the streets of Cleveland anymore, but 3 decades ago they did. And if only for a few minutes time traveling, you were among the incredulous onlookers, watching the dance of death, never imagining that one day you'd see that rage-filled face behind the barbarian past, a fast-talking fight promoter, Don King. Now you know the rest of the story.